Being born as the eldest daughter of the Bradley family was both my pride and my burden. Our Bradley family mansion stood on Beacon Street in Brookline, an upscale suburb of Boston, among elegant Victorian-style homes. My father, Martin, was a renowned heart surgeon and a professor at Harvard Medical School. My mother, Elizabeth, was a prominent figure in Boston society as a board member of the Massachusetts General Hospital's Patron Association. She never missed a weekend charity event or museum opening, and her graceful demeanor was the envy of many society women. In high society, our family was known as the perfect family. Every Christmas season, Mother would host an extravagant party. While champagne bubbles danced in the air, Father would talk about his latest successful heart surgeries, and Mother would gracefully play the role of hostess. It was like a scene straight out of an F. Scott Fitzgerald novel. However, beneath that superficial shine lurked shadows that no one noticed. I'm Caroline. I earn $120,000 a year as a research and development manager at a pharmaceutical company. With a Ph.D. in biochemistry from Harvard, I've dedicated my life to my work. While I'm praised for being meticulous and responsible, perhaps I'm just desperately trying to meet expectations. I often spend weekends in the laboratory, frequently declining invitations to Mother's parties with the excuse of being busy with work. In contrast to my modest lifestyle, wearing Theory and Brooks Brothers suits and living in a modest apartment in Brookline, my sister Vanessa walked a completely different path. Oh my goodness. I absolutely must have this bag. Working as a buyer for a luxury boutique, my sister draped herself in the latest Gucci collections and lived in a luxury condominium in Back Bay. Her lavish lifestyle was unimaginable given her actual income of $60,000 a year. Her Instagram was filled with daily posts of dinners at high-end restaurants and photos of the latest fashion items. Vanessa, darling. Your sense of style is absolutely wonderful. Mother would lavish praise on my sister's flashy attire. Since childhood, Vanessa had been Father's favorite. When she made mistakes at piano recitals, she'd be gently consoled with, "You must have been nervous," and poor grades were laughed off with, "Artistic children aren't meant for academics." Though Mother maintained a facade of equal treatment, I knew she favored my sister. "Carol, why don't you dress up a little? You'll never meet anyone nice if you're always cooped up in that laboratory." I would always respond to such comments from Mother with a smile and say, "I'm busy with work." For the sake of family peace, I had always chosen to concede. Since adolescence, I believed that was my role as the eldest daughter. This daily routine was dramatically shaken by my sister's engagement. Her fiancé was James Harrison, CEO of a Silicon Valley tech company with an annual income in the millions. From a chance meeting at an upscale restaurant to an engagement in just 3 months, he seemed like the perfect match for my sister, sincere and family-oriented. I can't believe it. Our baby is making such a wonderful marriage. Mother was overjoyed. A wedding planning committee was formed, and meetings with the wedding planner became a daily occurrence. A guest list of 500 people, a custom wedding dress, elaborate floral arrangements, all conversation revolved around the wedding. One Saturday afternoon, I was in the middle of a crucial experiment at the University Hospital laboratory. With my lab coat sleeves rolled up, carefully pipetting reagents, my phone started ringing. This experiment was vital, exploring new possibilities for Alzheimer's treatment. After 3 months of preparation, we had finally reached the main experiment. Normally I would ignore calls, but this was from Father. Come here right now. Father's voice trembled with anger. But, isn't the party next week? No excuses. Are you trying to ruin your sister's special day? 500 guests are waiting. If you don't come right now, I'll no longer consider you my daughter. I had to pull the phone away from my ear at Father's furious voice. My colleagues looked on with concern. Sarah, a junior researcher, silently asked with her eyes, "Are you okay?" I glanced at the experiment station. 30 minutes until data collection. If I missed this, 3 months of effort would be wasted. But there was no time to think. Leaving the experimental setup as it was, I rushed out of the laboratory still wearing my lab coat. As I tried to hail a taxi, a cold rain began to fall. New England spring weather is fickle. Black clouds spread across the sky, as if foreseeing the events to come. A message from my sister appeared on my phone screen. Just like you. Always trying to ruin my special days. But I won't let you get away with it this time. What do you mean? The party is next week. That's what the invitation said. I hurriedly typed my reply, my hands shaking so much I had to retype several times. Oops, did I get the date wrong? My sister's meaningful response sent an ominous chill down my spine. I finally managed to catch a taxi in the rain. The driver eyed me suspiciously in my rain-soaked lab coat. During the ride to the Hilton Hotel, I desperately searched for my copy of the invitation. It should have been in my email, and there it was, clearly stating next Saturday. My phone screen kept filling up with new messages, a flood of criticism from my parents' friends. "We've arrived, ma'am." I jumped out of the taxi and rushed into the Hilton Hotel lobby in my wet lab coat. I was clearly out of place in the luxury hotel lobby. The reception staff wore confused expressions. But what I found was an eerily quiet party venue. "I'm sorry, but we don't have any reservation for the Bradley party today," the front desk staff informed me with a puzzled expression. Just then, new photos were sent to my phone. Pictures from a party at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, my sister in an elegant dress, my parents chatting and smiling, surrounded by numerous guests. My sister looked cozy with her fiancé James. No way. A chill ran down my spine. It had all been planned. My sister's photo came with a telling message. Perfect timing. Now everyone can see your true colors. During the taxi ride to the Ritz-Carlton, my mind was in chaos. The experimental data was ruined, my lab coat was soaked with rain, and my makeup was smeared. Above all, the fact that this had been a deliberate trap was crushing my heart. I had been made to look like a complete fool in front of Boston's social elite. When I arrived at the Ritz-Carlton, the party was already winding down. In the ballroom decorated with elaborate flowers, only the sounds of cleanup remained. Empty champagne bottles, half-eaten hors d'oeuvres, flower petals scattered on the floor, the remnants of the grand celebration only deepened my pain. My parents and sister were waiting there. To think I have a daughter who would mistake such an important date. This could jeopardize my position at the medical department. Father looked down at me with cold eyes. "I'm so sorry, she's our failure of a daughter. Please accept my deepest apologies," Mother announced loudly enough for her society friends to hear. Her voice carried a contempt I had never heard before. Do check the date next time. Oh, but there might not be a next time. My sister wore a malicious smile while taking photos for social media. Her expression showed a triumphant joy I had never seen before. At that moment, I noticed my hands were shaking. Anger, frustration, or sadness, while suppressing the welling emotions, I took out my smartphone. Look at this. The invitation clearly. I tried to display the invitation email, but it had been deleted. Everything in my inbox was gone. Backups, screenshots, all erased. It had been a perfect plan. The smartphone screen blurred with my tears. Go home. Your presence is disturbing our guests. I couldn't argue with Mother's words. My rain-soaked lab coat appearance in the luxury hotel lobby felt too pathetic. Tomorrow, this story would surely spread through society's circles, the heart surgeon's eldest daughter ruining a party in her lab coat. As I was leaving, my sister whispered in my ear. Finally, I could show you who the unwanted one is in our perfect family. This is where you belong, my pathetic sister who only does experiments in a corner of the laboratory. That night, I returned to the laboratory. In front of the ruined experimental data, I quietly shed tears. Under the fluorescent lights, wiping tears with my lab coat sleeve, I looked like a defeated warrior. On the wedding day, the Boston Harbor Hotel was bustling with activity from early morning. A grand wedding with 500 guests. As notable figures from high society arrived one after another, the lobby filled with a sea of elegant dresses and tuxedos. I quietly entered the elevator, holding an envelope. Inside were the pieces of evidence I had verified in the laboratory last night. I hadn't hacked my sister's email account. I had simply carefully collected the obvious traces she had left behind. Oh my God. Carol, you look stunning. Mother's voice rang out as I entered the bridal room. For once, I was wearing a Carolina Herrera evening dress. My hair, makeup, and nails were all perfectly done. For this day. Well, this is unusual. Have you finally decided to listen to me? Mother wore a malicious smile. Beside her, my sister was in her pure white wedding dress, receiving final makeup adjustments. The custom-made dress, worth $500,000, enveloped her like a cloud. 2 hours until the ceremony. Is there something you want to say? There was anxiety in my sister's voice. Since the party incident, she had been wary of my unusual quietness. Yes, but before that. I took out my smartphone and sent an email to James, making sure the attached evidence files would reach him. It was 11 a.m., 1 hour before the ceremony. This is who my sister really is. Please check it. The reply came immediately. Come to the meeting room. Waiting for my sister to enter the powder room, I headed to the meeting room on the 12th floor. When I opened the door, James was standing by the window. Morning light streamed in through the large windows overlooking Boston Bay. What is this evidence? His voice was trembling. Everything should have already been displayed on his smartphone screen. There's no need to explain. It's all in the evidence. The evidence I had prepared was perfect. Messages between my sister and her lovers. Evidence of loans from loan sharks. Records of selling company secrets to competitors. And the email history planning the trap at the recent engagement party. To trap me, my sister made a perfect plan. But she forgot to erase her tracks. James's face turned pale. He carefully checked each piece of evidence, occasionally speechless with a "this is." "How long have you known about this?" "I've been gathering it bit by bit since the party." "It's a researcher's habit," I answered calmly. I had no intention of getting emotional. Just revealing the truth. Just then, the room's door burst open. My sister stood there in her pure white dress, face ashen. "What are you doing?" she screamed. "Just talking about what you did." "That's not true. I can explain everything." My sister desperately tried to cling to James. "James, please. Believe me." But James's expression had already turned cold. He quietly pushed my sister aside and left the room. We could see him walking straight to the chapel at the end of the hallway. Why would you do this?" My sister collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Her perfect makeup streaked with tears. Just then, a shocking announcement echoed from the chapel. "The wedding is cancelled. This woman is a liar." James's voice rang through the entire venue through the microphone. The 500 guests erupted in murmurs. "That's not true. I can explain everything." My sister screamed desperately. But no one would listen to her words anymore. Our parents rushed to the meeting room. Father's face was contorted with anger. However, the moment he saw the evidence, his expression changed to despair. "Caroline. I'm sorry." Mother's voice trembled. "You were right. It was all our fault." I silently stared back at my parents. This wasn't revenge. Just the truth coming to light. The wedding cancellation sent shocking waves through Boston's high society. Rumors that a Bradley daughter had deceived her fiancé and sold company secrets spread rapidly through social circles. Mother was rushed to the emergency room that evening with hyperventilation. In the Massachusetts General Hospital emergency room, she repeatedly muttered the same words while wearing an oxygen mask. "We were wrong, it's all our responsibility." Father confided in me in the hospital hallway while attending to Mother. As a heart surgeon, I've always tried to maintain calm judgment. But I made a complete error in judgment regarding family. We spoiled Vanessa too much. And you. I never tried to understand you. Hearing those words, I felt something long frozen within me slowly beginning to thaw. My sister disappeared right after the wedding. Someone had been asked to move her belongings from the luxury condominium. All that remained was a mountain of unpaid bills. "Ma'am, this card has exceeded its limit." When the luxury boutique branch manager visited Father's office, new facts came to light. My sister had been embezzling store merchandise and reselling it online. The total damage exceeded $1 million. Why didn't I notice? Father slumped over his desk, his shoulders shaking. That night, Father suffered a mild heart attack. Though immediate treatment prevented serious consequences, his position at the medical department became instantly precarious. For a heart surgeon, this stress was critical. After a week, the situation continued to worsen. Threatening demands began arriving from men who had been my sister's lovers. Some claimed they would sell their story to weekly magazines. The backlash in high society was harsher than imagined. Mother was asked to resign from her position as trustee of the charity organization. For the upper class, keeping up appearances was everything. Mother muttered bitterly. For the first time, she spent time in her hospital bed without makeup. The first contact from my sister came 10 days after the incident. A midnight call from a cheap motel in Boston's suburbs. I need money," she announced in a trembling voice. But this wasn't just a financial request. On the other end of the phone, my sister began sobbing. No one believes me anymore. Why did I do such things?" I silently listened to my sister's crying. Then, after getting the motel's address, I immediately drove there. The midnight highway was empty, Boston's city lights receding in the distance. In the motel room, I found my sister in a pitiful state. Her luxury brand dress had been replaced with cheap jersey wear, her perfect makeup gone. Empty wine bottles were scattered around the room, and a bottle of sleeping pills lay on the table. "How many did you take?" I immediately called an ambulance. "I didn't want to see you," my sister mumbled, losing consciousness. To be seen like this by the person I hated most. In the ambulance, I held my sister's hand tightly. Our relationship as sisters had once been too perfect. But perhaps now we could become real sisters for the first time. The attending physician gave a serious diagnosis: depression, anxiety disorder, and suspected borderline personality disorder. In an environment demanding surface perfection, her mind had become distorted. I strongly recommend psychiatric hospitalization. I quietly nodded at the doctor's words. "Is it all my fault?" my sister asked in a small voice from her hospital bed. "This is all the result of your own choices. But from now on, let's recover together." My sister began crying loudly. It was a pure, unadorned cry, like when she was a child. Our parents are beginning to change too. Father resigned from his Harvard Medical School professorship, deciding to focus on mentoring young doctors. Mother is reconsidering her approach to charity work, thinking about genuine social contribution rather than superficial socializing. We pursued the appearance of perfection too much. Father spoke quietly. The price was too high. As Boston's rainy spring ended, a bright early summer with fresh greenery was approaching. From the laboratory window, I look up at the sky. The experimental data is progressing well, and I've been selected to lead a new project. Moreover, I'm gradually becoming able to face the emotions I had long sealed away. In a family that demanded perfection, perhaps we had somewhere given up on becoming a true family. My sister's treatment has just begun. Our parents' wounds won't heal easily either. But I was confident this would be a new starting point for our family. After the perfect family's mask shattered, we were finally beginning to find our true bonds. A year has passed since then. New England's autumn is wrapped in unusually beautiful fall colors this year. After 6 months of inpatient treatment, my sister is now starting a new life in a small town in Maine. She's begun working as a sales associate in the apparel department of a local department store. She continues to attend counseling on weekends. "I never thought I could live on just $60,000 a year," my sister said self-deprecatingly over the phone. But if you make a debt repayment plan and live modestly, it's actually manageable. The loans from loan sharks were converted into a regular loan, with our parents acting as guarantors. Every month, my sister puts half her salary toward repayment. Though bankruptcy was an option, she was determined to repay everything. Recovery begins with taking responsibility for one's actions, her psychiatrist had praised. Our parents have changed dramatically too. Father is passionate about mentoring young doctors and slowly regaining trust in the medical department. Though he performs fewer surgeries, he's taking more care with his teaching. I've learned to listen more carefully to patients' emotional needs, Father says with a gentle smile. My experience with our family has changed me as a doctor. Mother has completely stopped keeping up appearances. She donated all her luxury brand bags and fundamentally reconsidered her approach to charity. Now she's involved in running a shelter for domestic violence victims. Rather than superficial socializing, I want to help people who are truly in need. Her formerly affected way of speaking has disappeared. Carol, congratulations. The other day, there was a surprise party in the lab to celebrate my promotion. We'd achieved breakthrough results in Alzheimer's treatment research, new data from the experiment that had been forcibly interrupted that day. Now you're joining the $200,000 club, Sarah whispered jokingly. I'm sure you'll find a wonderful partner too. True to her words, there's been a new encounter in my life. Dr. Michael Green, a neurologist. It started with discussions about research. He understands my passion as a researcher. It's nice to have a relationship where we don't demand perfection from each other, he said softly, holding my hand during a recent dinner. And tonight is Thanksgiving. The whole family is gathering for the first time in a year. Mother has prepared a simple dinner in casual clothes. No fancy restaurants or elaborate catering. Let's all cook together, Mother suggested, and we nodded with smiles. At dusk, my sister arrived. No flashy makeup or designer brands. She wore a simple dress and showed a warm smile. Sis, could you help me out? My sister's voice called from the kitchen. She seemed to be struggling with the turkey preparation. Of course. I looked up from my research materials and headed to the kitchen. Mother peeling potatoes, Father making gravy sauce, my sister wrestling with the turkey. The smell of slightly burnt bread, lumpy mashed potatoes, a misshapen apple pie. But maybe this is what a real family scene looks like. As dinner preparations were complete, my sister quietly murmured, "This might be real happiness." You mean we've finally become a real family? I answered with a smile. The food on the table isn't particularly fancy. But this warm atmosphere, natural conversation, and above all, the comfort of being able to be ourselves. Outside the window, the sunset was beautifully coloring the sky. And next spring, my sister plans to return to Boston. This time, as her true self, without any pretense. We no longer need to act like a perfect family. Though we each carry our wounds, we understand and support each other. This is our new form of family. The evening light gently envelopes us as we gather around the table.